My name is Mitch Oswald, and I am a farmer near Aurora, Nebraska. I am the 6th generation on our family farm. My family and I have been farming on this land since we homesteaded here back in the 1800s. On our farm, we raise corn, soybeans, and seed corn. Our farm is made up of my dad, me, my brother, and now my 3 kids that I have at home.
Nebraska is the nation's 3rd largest corn-producing state that produces over 1 billion bushels of high-quality corn. 99% of the corn grown in Nebraska is what we call field corn. Field corn is grown until it's hard and dry and then is harvested in the fall to be fed to livestock, processed into ethanol, and is exported domestically all around the world. Field corn usually takes about 90 to 100 days to mature. Generally, farmers plant corn in late April to early May in Nebraska. It reaches maturity in the fall and is ready to harvest in September or October. Farmers know when field corn is ready to harvest by testing its moisture content. Field corn needs to be allowed to dry, a process that turns the stalks brown and brittle with the kernels hard before it can be safely stored in bins. In the drying process, the corn creates indentions on each kernel, which is why some farmers refer to field corn as dent corn.
Yellow dent corn, as you can tell on the ear here, you can see the little dents on all the kernels. When the kernels are good to harvest, you'll see the dent come out, and that means that the corn is drying down to the moisture that we want and that it is getting to full maturity. So we really watch it throughout the summer and wait for it to get to this point before we get the combine going. Sitting here in front of our combine, this is a 12-row corn head on a Coloss combine. So as you can see, the corn head is broken up into 12 different rows. So it's got the snoots, that's what we call these, that divide each row one by one. And this will be used to cut the stalk off and send the ear into the machine. So how it does it is we drive forward and it gets into the corn, and it uses these chains here you can see, these are running, so they'll run back toward the back of the machine, and as these chains are walking back, it's grabbing the stalks of corn and pushing it back into there, and underneath there's a bunch of really fast spinning knives, and what those knives are doing is it's cutting off the stalk at the ground and sending all that into the machine. And that's how we get all of the ears picked from the plant and get sent into the corn head and then sent into the machine through the augers. When the ears get into the machine, this is what they look like when they get into the corn head. So as it's going through the machine, it goes through the auger in the head into what we call the feeder house, which is what feeds all of the corn into the combine. When it gets into the combine, it runs through different systems and ends up in what we call a rotor. A rotor is a really big drum that's got knobs on the outside that spins at a really high rate of speed or really slow depending on the crop. And what it does is it crushes these ears so that all of the grain gets pulled off of the cob, and we're left with just this is what we're left with. So we want to make sure when we're setting the combine that all of the cobs that come out behind the machine, and I can grab one here, we want to make sure that all of the cobs have no grain left on them. So when we're setting the combine, we have to run it, and then we get out and we walk behind it to make sure that we are getting all of the grain, all of the kernels off of the cobs and into the combine and not onto the ground. The more we put on the ground, the more yield that we lose and the more grain that we don't get to sell. So we have to be very cautious and we have to be very diligent about setting our machine and making sure that it's running correctly. As it's going through the machine, once all of the kernels get taken off of the cob, All the residue and all of the trash from the plant, the corn stalk for the year, gets sent through what we call the choppers, which is another really fast spinning system in the combine with a bunch of blades on it, and it cuts it up into kind of confetti, and then it will go out the back of the machine. Throughout the winter, we are hopeful that all of the residue will break down and get incorporated into the ground with rain and snow, so that the field's ready for next year. We're here in the combine now. So this is a machine that is hooked up to our corn head today, and we're using it to harvest the grain. This time of the year is the only time of the year that it's actually out and moving. So my hand over here, this is what controls the speed and direction of the combine. We use it as basically a joystick. Push it forward to go forward, and you pull it back to go backwards. And then it has the unload button for our auger that will move the corn from the combine into the grain cart. And then it also has controls for the corn head. So this is up, this is down, and then we also have some other controls that help control what the corn head's doing as it's picking corn. The steering wheel obviously controls the direction of the combine. When we're not in auto steer mode, then we have to manually drive it. We basically have to just use it whenever we're just turning around. Okay, so on the screens, we have lots of monitors in the cab of the combine. First one that we look at is the combine setup and how the combine is operating. This is where we make any adjustments to the machine, the head height, the speed of the combine, how clean the grain is coming into the combine, and just a whole bunch of other adjustments that we can make on the machine. So that's that one. The next one that we have is we run a yield monitor, and our yield monitor tells us yield and tells us what the moisture is of the grain. And so we are able to watch that throughout the day. We have our GPS monitor or our auto steer monitor, so the combine will actually drive itself through the fields. So we're able to spend more time watching the head and the machine versus having to steer and drive. And then the other one that we have is our iPad, and that's just hooked up. We use that to map our field, and that tells us at the end of the year kind of how the yield does and shows us if we have any bad spots in the field, if we need to come through and do some further investigating on if we have enough fertilizer or if we have enough water or any other little issues that might arise from the growing season. We are running about 3.6 to 4.2 miles per hour through the field when we're picking corn. The drier that the plant and the drier that the corn is coming in, we can drive a little bit faster. But if it's a little bit more on the wet side or a little bit tougher to pick, then the machine has to run a little bit slower so that it doesn't end up getting plugged with all the stalks and stuff coming in. So we have to really watch. So all of our fields are broken up into acres. 1 acre is right at the same size as 1 football field. So on this field that we're harvesting today is 152 acres. Throughout the whole field, you're looking at about 152 football fields. Typically on a day, we usually like to get to 80 to 90 acres in a day. That's usually a pretty good day for us. As you can see behind me, there's the grain cart that we unloaded on from the combine. Took the grain from the combine and is now unloading it onto the semi. And from the semi will get taken to either one of 2 locations, one back to our grain bins, where it will be dried down and put into storage until we market it throughout the year, or it will be taken to our local elevator or ethanol plant, where it will be processed and made into a variety of different things throughout the year. So today we are actually taking all of ours from this field back to our grain bin facility, where we were going to be storing it until January. And in January is when I will be delivering it to our local ethanol plant. That was when I had it sold. And so it will be in our grain bins until then. So as you can see, the grain cart unloads into the truck, and from here it will be trucked back to our grain bin facility. Thanks for joining me in the field today. I'm Mitch, and as you can tell, every kernel of corn goes through a long process to go from harvest into the grain bin or into the elevators. Every kernel has a very unique story. Every kernel goes through a long growing season to get to the point where we are today, down to the finish line where we take it into the elevator. So thank you for joining me on this journey. Thanks for watching.